If leadership is everything, and it truly is, what's the best use of a leader's time? Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. And I want to start you off today by sharing a story that I heard by one of my favorite pundits, a gentleman named Simon Sinek. If you ever get an opportunity to listen to a video or read one of his books, or better yet, see him in person, I strongly urge that you do so. Okay? Let's talk a little. I want to tell you his story about leadership. It seems that one day he was speaking in Las Vegas and he was staying at the Four Seasons Hotel. Well, he had some time to spare, and so he went down. He was sitting in a coffee shop and having a beverage, a coffee, and he started talking to the barista. And his conversation with the barista was unbelievably good. The guy was intelligent. A gentleman, the guy's name was Noah, okay? And Noah was very intelligent. He knew how to hold a conversation. He was funny, and he just looked like he was having the time of his life behind the bar there, serving out the drinks. Well, and Mr. Sinek is always, looking for, stuff about the workplace. So he said, "Noah, tell me, do you like your job?" And Noah looked at him and said, "You know what? I love my job." All right. Simon Sinek said, "Okay, tell me, what is it that you love about your job?" He said, "I love working here because the managers," and they're not even necessarily just my manager, but any manager that comes by will stop by and say, "Noah, how's it going? Is there anything I can do to help you? Please let me know. Any problems, come and see me." Okay? Just a tremendously strong, cooperative culture. And Simon Sinek, thought, "Hey, that's pretty good." And then Noah said, "By the way, I also work at Caesar's Palace, and it's not the same." And Simon Sinek said to himself, "Uh-oh, I struck gold. Tell me, what's the difference between working at Four Seasons and working at Caesar's Palace?" And he said, "The managers at Caesar's Palace are only looking for things that you do wrong. And when they do that, there's a tension among the employees, and they're not focused on doing anything extra for the customer. What they're focused on is, when is the end of my shift so I can get out of here?" And the culture of the place reflects the way the employees feel. If ever there is evidence that leadership is everything, here you have the same guy with the same ambitions, wanting to do a good job. One place, they're there to cooperate, they're there to help him. They're focusing on what his needs are in order so that he may help his customers. And at the other place, they're looking to, what are you doing wrong? What are you doing wrong? And they're focusing on that. And it creates a tension that certainly is felt by the customers, because they're not getting the very best from the people that are serving them. Does that make sense? Have you been in a culture like that? All right, so leadership is everything. And how a leader spends his or her time is of critical importance. And towards that end, I want to share with you an article by a gentleman named Jake Wilder, ironically called "The Best Use of a Leader's Time." And I want to read it to you because it's so good. I'm going to read it to you, do it in two parts. We're going to do the first part right now. Once again, big shout out, Jake Wilder, "The Best Use of a Leader's Time." He starts off his article like this, with a quote. "The supply of time is totally inelastic," wrote Peter Drucker. Quote, "No matter how high the demand, the supply will not go up. There is no price for it and no marginal utility curve for it. Moreover, time is totally perishable and cannot be stored. Yesterday's time is gone forever and will never come back. Time is therefore always an exceedingly short supply. Unquote. Time is the universal constant. We all get the same amount, and our success as leaders often comes down to how well we choose to use it. What we choose to prioritize and what we choose to ignore tells people what we care about. Excuse me. It influences the priorities of those around us and drives the performance of the team. Effective leadership always starts with evaluating how we spend our time. I once had a manager who spent every Monday morning going through last week's time charges. Instead of discussing plans for the week or tackling our biggest problems, we all got the third degree over how we charged our time. It's safe to say that there wasn't a whole lot of strategic initiative in that division. I had another manager who spent her evenings reviewing each employee's emails from the day before. We used to say that Big Sister is watching, since each morning you'd get a critique on yesterday's communications. You can imagine the wonders this did to build trust in the organization. It's easy to point out examples of how not to spend your time. We see those around us every single day. And we've all had days where we look back and think, what just happened? Where did my time go? Did I actually accomplish anything? Identifying the alternative is much more difficult. With our limited time, what's the best way to spend it? The answer, in short, involves those things that leaders can do that very few others can do as well. Unfortunately, these tend to be the very things we ignore in times of busyness. Developing long-term vision and strategy. In order to carry a positive action, we must develop here a positive vision. That's a quote from the Dalai Lama. When you're putting out fires each day, long-term strategy is one of the easiest things to defer. It's that item on your to-do list that you always list, yet never seem to do. The fact that you write it down each day makes you feel better, even if you know that it'll be the first thing you cut once the daily craziness begins. Developing long-term vision and strategy is critical for the main reason that nobody else does it. Literally. No one else on your team is going to do that. They all think it's your job as the leader. If you don't take it on, everyone else will continue to plod along on the current course, whether that leads them to success or obsolescence. It's difficult to overestimate the impact of a vision on your team's motivation. When people have a clear vision of a better future and a realistic path towards achieving it, they'll bring their best selves to help you get there. If they believe that they're working to preserve an undefined status quo, that's about the time that they start to mentally check out. Can anybody else identify with those words as strongly as I do? Once again, it's the culture that either makes an organization super productive or makes it same old, I'm on the treadmill. And what is it? What is one of the major things that helps create the culture? It's having a vision. And it's the job of the leader to make sure that the people in the organization can see, feel, taste, and touch the vision, and it motivates them, and they can see progress being made, and they measure their progress. Does that make sense? So that's one part of having an outstanding culture, which is essential to having a productive business. Next time we get together, we're going to go over the second part of what helps to create a great business culture. And always remember Don't ration the passion, fashion the passion. I'm Eli's dad.